as mentioned, this is actually the fanciest slide of the presentation. From now on, it goes downhill. Cool. Account abstraction. So it's pretty much 1 year ago that the original entry point contract for ERC 4337 was deployed. Since then, we've saw like 10 million smart accounts being created, more than 16 million user ops, so transactions in the context of 457. The entire network is being built out, so like bundlers, paymasters, a lot of developer activity, generally a lot of awareness about the account abstraction is here. We have panels, tracks at conferences everywhere. We've got a lot of media coverage about the account abstraction. It's just top of mind for many people. Major stakeholders like centralized exchanges, such as Coinbase, OKX, really leaning into the space, building out teams, building out solutions. So quite positive signals. And now also end of last year, like a proposal for native account abstraction on layer 2 that was formalized. So a lot of positive signals so far, but also a bunch of realizations. One of them is that building out an account abstraction ecosystem will take a lot of time. That's maybe a result of 457 being a bit overhyped initially, that people thought it would get faster, and now we get this like sobering hangover the next day after the party where we say, okay, yeah, it's actually quite some challenges on the way. One of them is actually to convince people to migrate to smart accounts because people are with people stay with the wallets that they got used to. They have their setup, they've got their private key backed up somewhere, and they really need to have strong reasons to do so. Another realization is that L2s are reluctant to implement RIP 7560, so native account abstraction, or at least it can be foreseen that it will take quite some time until most L2s would do so. And the final one is that the primary use case of 457 today is for or smart accounts in general, is for multi-signature wallets and sponsored transactions. And yeah, most of the 457 user ops is the main use case that they're sponsored for the user. So we are a little bit of in this valley right now when it comes to 4337 and 7560 specifically, where we made some progress. We've overcome the initial hype and we formed momentum, but there's now quite some work to do. And at the same time, there's 2 new kids on the block, EIP 3074 and 5003. They're not necessarily new, but they are picking up in momentum and attention right now. One of the key things is that, because we expect account abstraction to take quite some time, there is the community thinks that we should, in the meantime, fix EOAs, so private key accounts. We should at least have a little bit of UX improvement while we do so, and that brings us to 3074. Just quick description, very high level of what 3074 enables is that you have your EOA account, so an account controlled by private key, and 3074 allows you to authorize external contracts that they expand the logic of your wallet, so to say. So you can activate other extensions. Similar also in smart accounts, you have plugins, modules. It works quite similar, but you give essentially root level access to your account to another contract, and this can then use this to provide additional features. And this contract can then make calls on your account by off call, and that's very high level how it looks like. This enables quite some cool features for EOAs, sponsored transactions, batch transactions, making multiple calls in one transaction, session keys, automations, stuff that was so far exclusively available to smart accounts is coming to EOAs, is coming to your MetaMask wallet in the future. There are some drawbacks to this as well. One of them is that 3074, it's a wallet that was created with a private key, or there is a private key associated to this account, and this private key still has to be handled with care. So you could have an invoker contract, this extension, that then has a multi-signature logic, for example, but this private key is like an admin key to this account. So no matter what setup you have in the invoker, the private key could still create transactions. And similarly, because these invokers, these extensions, they have a lot of access to the account or full access to the account, they are super security critical. It's no different than smart account modules that also have access to the account, but that just means that as a wallet, if you want to make use of invokers, you don't want to have your users just like blindly authenticate invokers, because that would open up the door for attacks, for people just asking users to authenticate invokers that then drain your entire account. So that we will be seeing how this plays out, but essentially wallets will have to keep a curated list of invokers that the wallet trusts, because it's in a way like a very core part of the logic of the wallet, or and you don't want to just leave this as a completely permissionless system, because that would just be super risky for the user. And this could have certain centralizing, permissioning effects, but it's too early to tell how this really plays out. But there's also a bunch of positive effects of 3074, especially when it comes to smart accounts and account abstraction. One of them is because it enables batch transaction for your EOA account. It very much standardizes or can standardize the developer experience across the board, because so far, if you're a dApp, you want to provide a good user experience for your smart account users. You can leverage batch transactions, but then someone comes along with an EOA and they don't have this capability, and you need to implement different flows. This will enable that also standards such as 5792 or others that try to standardize these user experience components will be more agnostic towards whether it's an EOA or a smart account that's being used with your dApp. And generally, it forces applications to not assume a very specific execution logic of the account, because EOAs could be extended with invokers, so they could have different flows, and the application really needs to optimize for them. So it just breaks a current assumption that applications had, that every account behaves exactly the same way, which would also help smart accounts, because there this assumption was already not true. It also potentially allows EOAs to leverage the ERC-457 bundling network. I haven't dig too deep into that. I know that it's not like completely trivial, or there's certain problems there as well, but it might help also put more traffic or more adoption to 457 in general. And one of the key things also is that it allows for an EOA to be more easily migrated to a smart account, because right now, if you want to do so, you need to literally move all your assets to a new account, which means making a bunch of transactions, and it costs you gas fees. And 3074 would allow that you can have a migration path which is batches all these asset transfers into one transaction, sponsors that, and it's more simple then for users to migrate. But the key thing about 3074 is that it also has adverse effects on AA efforts to some extent. So it is expected that builder attention, venture capital funding, and others, like generally the momentum might turn more towards 3074 ecosystem, and it may take away a little bit of the momentum that smart accounts have gathered in the past. I know that different teams that have been thinking about smart account solutions, account abstraction, are now reconsidering because it just changes a little bit how they plan their roadmaps. And if they really just want to have sponsored transactions or batch transactions, then they don't need to use smart accounts anymore. And it's also for L2s then even less of an incentive to put resources into 7560, so native account abstraction, because potentially also they might not see the demand from builders, they might not want to leverage sponsored transactions of smart accounts, but you do it with 3074. And just all of that together may mean that there is a risk to enshrine EOAs further, because generally there's a less of an incentive to really focus on on smart accounts fully. And just a visualization how this looks like in my mind is that 3074 is definitely a strong improvement to the current state, but it may mean that it brings us into a local maximum and disincentivizes us to really reach for the global maximum, which is full account abstraction. And maybe some are asking now that if you have all these cool features for EOAs, why even do we need smart accounts to begin with? And a few of them is that it's not possible to do a key rotation with 3074. So you have this private key, and it will be forever valid to authenticate on that account. So whenever this key is compromised or you think it's compromised, you have to move accounts because it's not possible to change the key. Also means that account recovery cannot be implemented fully. So with invokers, you could create asset recovery systems, so ways how you can move out all your assets in case of an emergency, but because you cannot rotate the key, you cannot get access to your account if you lost your key to that. You might, via an invoker, have limited access, but never full access. And things like multisig or general more secure security policies are not possible because they can always be backdoored with this private key, which, this pretty much puts a cap on how much security you can have on your account, including quantum resistance, which at some point we need to move away from EOAs anyways, because they're not quantum proof, and this just 3074 doesn't solve this very specific problem. And this is something, Vitalik posted this recently on Farcaster. I changed it a little bit, but it depicts quite well how 3074 really has an impact, which is account abstraction really tries to solve two things: the UX challenges and the security challenges of wallets today. And 3074 is very good at solving the UX challenges. It makes for much more, or it improves the convenience of wallets quite a bit through sponsored transactions, batch transactions, and so on. But it doesn't address the security part, which is critical because users very much care about the UX improvements, but selling security is really hard. So if so far we had both convenience and security improvements that are brought by smart accounts, and if we now allow EOAs to have the same convenience improvements, it's really hard to convince users that this additional security is really worth it to make the migration, which is the entire point that we end up in this local maximum. And there is a potential solution to that, which is actually an extension EIP on 3074, and that's the EIP 5003, which just says you cannot just authenticate external contracts to add logic to your account, but you can actually deploy code on the address of your account. So that means you can fully convert an EOA into a smart account with a separate opcode, and this revokes access of the original private key to the account, which then there are some reasons that currently it's not included in the next hard fork, and like always with EIPs, there's certain compromises that need to be taken, certain trade-offs, and these are the two main ones which are raised for this EIP. One is off-chain challenges. So even though the key is revoked on-chain, it could be that off-chain systems still accept this key or signatures from this key as valid because they use EC recover to authenticate, and that would just break certain assumptions of applications and permit and stuff like that. And in my view, the compromise that we should take here is that we need to modify the EC recover precompile, because it would then allow that when code is deployed at a certain account and the EC recover fails in that case, that then also off-chain systems could see that. Would also require updating libraries, EFSJS and so on. But in my opinion, this is something that we can take as a compromise, even though it will require some effort. And the other one is cross-chain challenges, which 5003 faces, because the thing is, when you convert your account into a smart account with 5003, it only happens so on one specific chain, and you would have to do this on different chains separately. And this is a problem specifically because there might be in the future chains coming up, or L2s coming up, which then the original private key is still the primary authentication factor for this very account. And yeah, this is criticized, although I personally see there also the compromise that we should just also break with an assumption that if you have a certain smart account, or if account looks in a way on one network, it should look exactly the same at the same address on another network, because this is essentially how smart accounts work. Even today, that's something that's unfortunate, or people try to get around it with counterfactual deployment, which is also not always a solution, but like we should just generally try to go away from that and say, if you convert an account on one chain, that's good. If you happen to have the private key, you can also convert the account into a smart account on other chains, but generally let's not assume that it will be converted automatically on all chains, because that's just generally how these smart accounts work. They have state on the different chains. That's stuff that's being solved also, where research is going on around key store rollups and how state can be synced, and maybe we abstract away the lower level addresses and have meta addresses and so on. Like these things we will have to solve anyways for smart accounts. So it's not something that's specifically new for 5003. It's actually even more of just a benefit that you have. If you happen to have the private key, you could deploy on the same address as well, which general smart account users or like vanilla smart accounts cannot do. Yeah, this in my view would build a bridge from the local maximum to the global maximum, which we don't have to go from the very beginning, but at least it's there. It's something that the ecosystem can calculate on, can form themselves on, and we can still have the shared goal of the ecosystem that we move towards full AA, while maybe a lot of the or some ecosystem participants will still want to leverage 3074 initially, but it at least is a commitment that this is still part of the Ethereum vision, that the account abstraction is what we are after. This is just a summary of what I said before. Yeah, this is generally the visualization there. Is we started with 457, and now we've got the choice. The initial path, which is let's first push for native account abstraction on L2s, and then try to see how we deal with legacy EOA users, might not be working. So we probably will go with, or pretty sure we will go with 3074 as one component to move forward. But it's, yeah, in my view, very risky to purely focus on 3074 without having 5003 as a building block with it, because this would, yeah, it would just create wrong incentives in the ecosystem, and it may distract us massively from the momentum that we have gathered in the past. And I cannot stress this enough. I think I'm quite close also to people doing stuff in the account abstraction ecosystem. I really felt like there was very much momentum there. If a Coinbase is shipping a smart wallet, like they really have had plans to go into that direction, and I'm very much afraid that we break out this momentum at this point by having this short-term fix, which distracts us in the long run. Yeah. So yeah, 3074 is great. Awesome UX improvements for current users. It has some advantages, disadvantages. For smart account adoption in general, I don't want to say 3074, if only 3074 is part of the next hard fork, that it's completely bad for smart account adoption. It just is kind of like a mixed bag, which is unfortunate. And I think 5003 would be a better compromise in general. There are some questions around it, I think solvable questions. I would appreciate having this kind of trying to get over these hurdles, because yeah, it might not be that we will be able to get like account abstraction related EIPs into next hard fork for, I don't know, 2 years, and if we do the wrong moves right now, it may lead us a dangerous path. I think, yeah, that's the last slide. So thanks very much, and happy if anyone has questions.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, they can raise their hand. Any questions for Lukas? All right. Oh, right here. Okay.
So I work at Phantom Wallet, and the big focus is on Solana, but account abstraction seems to really only have taken root and hold with 4337 and et cetera on Ethereum. How do you feel the rest of the chains, Solana or non-EVM chains, let's say, will react to account abstraction, 3074, 5003, all the way up to like full account abstraction over time? So yeah, like what are your thoughts in terms of like the future of non-EVM chains in that respect?
Was a bit hard to understand. I just got Solana non-EVM.
Future of account abstraction on non-EVM chains?
I mean, I wish I was up to date with all the stuff that's going on all different chains. Like, I know Fuel is doing a lot, Luxor is doing a lot, but I actually don't know in terms of account abstraction what's up in Solana right now. But I mean, it is also going to be a challenge where, like, anyways, when we have deviations of how we see account abstraction, how we implement it, how we then have also a cohesive developer ecosystem across the different L1s and so on. So that's, I'm happy enough if we fix, or if we figure out how to do it on the EVM, and let's maybe
ultimately, what do you think account abstraction means for EOAs over time? Over time, what does account abstraction adoption mean for the current EOAs that we have?
I mean, I still think at some point there should not be any EOAs left. Like, at some point we need to migrate them, to convert them into smart accounts. And there are proposals out there that's like a forced conversion, like an emergency conversion in case of a quantum attack. Like, we are planning for that already. And it's a matter of time where we have to migrate. Like, we can push it faster, or we can then do panic mode in case it becomes really a challenge.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Oh.
First, on the non-EVM side, like, just a quick note there that many non-EVMs have native level account abstraction in terms of certain features. For example, Solana has batch transactions supported natively. But yeah, it's like a different account structure and different roadmap that all of these guys are following, right? My question to you, Lukas, is like, what does the 503 roadmap look like? Like, what next? How do we get there? When can we hope for inclusion?
It's very hard to hear. How it affects SAFE's roadmap, or what?
No, like the standard itself, like we know 3074 is going to be included in the next hard fork. What is the roadmap for 5003?
Good question. I think that's something where there's a lot of discussion right now in like Telegram groups. Is it worth pushing for an inclusion or not? I think also the next all core devs call will probably have this as a topic. I cannot estimate right now the chances of if it makes. It's really, do we find consensus that certain compromises can be taken, that we can kind of break certain assumptions that people have been doing so far, or that it's too big of a lift. But I would hope right now it's like 50-50 in my mind, but maybe some core devs disagree. But yeah, it would be, and like both 3074, or if it happens 5003, would be like the next hard fork is planned for end of this year, beginning of next year. So it's not something that will be there already this summer. Maybe at some point there's like a testnet on the way, but it's still quite some time also for the ecosystem to adjust, whatever it's then decided what's included to navigate this. Yeah.
Hi. This question is also related to 503. So one aspect of 503 is also to restrict the EOAs to send transaction or sign any signatures, right? So how does it affect SAFE? Because SAFE has EOAs as owners. And if those EOA accounts actually are restricted to sign any messages post 5003, then like how will it affect existing SAFE and its owners?
I mean, Safe can have EOAs as owners. Usually they have. They don't have to. Like it could be other smart contracts that are owners. It doesn't matter. And therefore also, if you convert an EOA into a smart account, you could still use it as an owner. Just instead of EC recovery, you have 1271 contract signatures that then you use to sign, or it's it doesn't create that many challenges, I think.
So there will be some sort of like a migration, like some action that owners need to do, like once they migrate to, 3074 type, account.
I mean, it is a voluntary migration, so no one is forced, at least with 5003, to convert an EOA into a smart account.
Thank you.